Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal, where you can see I'm joined by team news and ticks for this week's live show. We'll be discussing all things Arsenal. Of course, we've got the transfer window looming large on Friday. We've got a really good start to the season to talk about. We've got a big game against Brighton to talk about as well. So it'll be a jam-packed show as always. Part one is here. You can watch for the next 45 minutes or so. Then we'll be heading over to Team News and Ticks' Patreon for part two of the show. You can find the link down below. Also find the link to his big live event coming up next month with Nigel Winterburn before the Leicester game at the Emirates Stadium, and it's going to be a venue around the Emirates, isn't it? So you can tell me more about that in a second. But how are you doing, mate? All good? Good to speak to you again.
Yeah. Again, as always, thanks for having me. Yeah, all good. Obviously, big weekend with the Villa game last weekend. Really satisfying. I think sometimes winning games like that are more pleasurable than going and winning 4-5-0, as good as it would have been. You know, knowing that you're battle ready, especially this early in the season. It was a tough game, and let's be honest, it could have gone either way. And coming out of a game like that, as I said, I think sometimes them wins are better.
I agree. I had a really good feeling coming away from that game at the weekend, mainly because Arsenal didn't play that well for a large chunk of it, and yet they still ground out a really decent win. They had to ride their luck. We know, Ollie Watkins has his shooting boots on. It's probably a different story, but he didn't. It was like a flip, wasn't it, at the game at the Emirates at the end of last season when Arsenal played so well in that first half, missed all the big chances. Leo missing from point blank range when Emmy made the save. It was kind of like flipped on its head for this one at the weekend, wasn't it? It was a big win, massive win.
Well, I was talking to some friends in the ground and some people I sort of know that sat around me that I wouldn't say they're friends, but I see them at games all the time. And we were saying that of our last 3 games against Villa, and obviously we've lost 2 of them, that was probably our worst performance.
It was definitely our worst performance. Definitely.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, no, but I'll take that. Playing nowhere near our best and winning 2-0 at a ground like Aston Villa. I think before, with the fact that City and Spurs away are looming large as well, to just go to Villa, go away and get a win like that away from home before those 2 really big games, I think it's massive sort of psychologically as well, and definitely room for improvement. I think that's a good thing as well. 2 wins from 2 clean sheets, 4 goals. And I think we all know we can improve as well. So, yeah, decent stuff. So we'll talk about that in today's show. Obviously, we look ahead to Brighton, massive game, who have started the season equally as well as Arsenal, if not better. Another big win in the cup for them last night as well. So we'll chat about that. And of course, we're going to have to talk about transfers, aren't we? Because we are very close to the transfer window. How are you finding the start of the final week of the transfer window? Are you embracing the madness and the chaos? How are you finding it?
I wish we didn't have to, and I wish everything was calmer. But obviously, the need is there. We have multiple needs, and I think it's going to be a very busy week, ins and outs. Obviously, Eddie's still not done. Moreno being announced yesterday after what seemed like the longest transfer saga ever. It's probably not even close, but it felt like it was just going on forever. I think it was when you know something's inevitable. It like you just get the can we hurry up and get it done, and that's what it felt like with Moreno. But yeah, I think we're going to get a very busy week, and there's going to be people popping up claiming this, that, and the other. There's going to be agents linking their players to clubs, and that'll reach the press. And then for me, it's the meltdown people have over everything, and I get it. But an agent will get something out there somehow. Like they'll leak it to someone who will pull it out, and then people lose their head over it, and it's like it might not be true, and it happens so often that I just think people should probably be a bit calmer. But don't get me wrong, I'm as bad as everyone else, so I get where it comes from.
Yeah, I think I've mellowed. I don't know if it's me showing my age now, but I think I've mellowed a little bit. I used to get completely sort of head loss when I think back to the summer of Peter Cech. I think that was where I was probably at my angriest as an Arsenal fan for a sort of lack of action in a transfer window, when I felt that that window was there to be got at by Arsenal, and ultimately I think I was proved correct in terms of what happened the following season. I think a little bit more action in that summer window, and Arsenal could have really done big things, and yet they decided just to sign Peter Cech, which was just madness. And I can see why people are beginning to feel like that a little bit in this window. But Arsenal have signed one of Italy's best young defenders. They have signed a proven Euros winner in Mikel Merino. I think the fact is, everyone's been waiting this summer, haven't they, for a sort of attacking reinforcement, a big attacking reinforcement, whether that be a striker, whether that be attacker. And as we get towards the end of the window now, just a couple of days to go, it is starting to feel like that might not happen. And that surprises me. It really surprises me because all summer I've been expecting it to happen and waiting for it to happen. And the fact now that I'm beginning to feel like it's potentially not, it is a bit strange. I am surprised that they seem to be taking that approach. I don't know about you.
Yeah, exactly the same. I mean, I don't like if when I say I'm still confident it will happen, that's not based on knowledge or info, but it just feels like it has to. It's been a
Yeah, I
need,
agree.
especially a Saka backup. It's been a pressing need for so long. And I was thinking about this earlier. I wonder if people would judge our window as harshly if we'd signed that attacker, even if it wasn't like an A grade or an A-star grade player, but
Well,
hadn't signed Moreno.
If Sesko had signed, for example.
Yeah, if Sesko had signed and we'd done Calafiori and Moreno hadn't, I wonder if we'd still be in this meltdown now about signing a midfielder, or I think we probably still would, to be honest. But I don't know, with the attacker, it just feels like such a pressing need. As I said, even if it's not a superstar, even if it's someone that, as you said, can play minutes across the front three or at least either wing, you know, if Saka needs a rest, is someone that can either competently play there or you move Martinelli over there and someone can competently play on the left. It just feels like such a pressing need, especially with Eddie going, which obviously should happen soon. Reece, I think, probably looks like he stays, even though there is some links, and I think there's a question on that later. But he's clearly not trusted to play significant minutes, and it leaves us with an injured Jesus. Kai will essentially have to play every game, and then you've got Saka will have to play every game, and Leo and Martinelli will have to share minutes. But across what we're hoping will probably be a 60-game season, that doesn't seem enough to me, to be honest.
No, I feel they're one short. I still think they've got a squad that's capable of doing really big things this season and winning what they want to win, but they are going to need a little bit of luck to do it. I think injuries wise, I feel like they're leaving themselves a bit short. To be honest, though, my priority coming into this window, the position I wanted them to strengthen the most was in midfield, and they've done that with the signing of Merino. And like I said, I think they're going to need a little bit of luck now in the forward department and injuries, not too many injuries to crop up. But I feel a lot better about the shape of the team now in the starting 11. The fact that Merino has signed. I don't know about you. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think if you'd have asked me before the window, it wouldn't have been someone I would have chose. But he's fits obviously what Mikel's trying to do. He's very wary of trying to be tough and battle hardened. And as I said, duels is obviously a phrase we always use since Arteta's come in. But he's got essentially a duel monster, someone who's very good in the air, technically clean enough. Just a good all round player, really. So I still wonder, like for a long time now, we've been saying, that Martinelli's issue has been that like Rice in particular doesn't feed him. He doesn't unleash him, or whatever the phrase people use. And I'm not entirely sure if Moreno does that, which would be my only concern. But with the way, and I don't mean in terms of form, but the way we play with Martinelli, like he's been playing as a touchline winger 40 yards from goal. I don't think you could put the best left 8 in the world next to him. I don't think anything gets into the level we want from him when he's playing that style. I thought it was really noticeable the other day that when Leo came on, and he was excellent, by the way, it was one of the best whatever cameos I've seen from Leo, best games I've seen from Leo in an Arsenal shirt. But he essentially played in the width of the box, maybe a little bit outside it, whereas Martinelli was on the touchline. And I'd like to see Martinelli play the role that Leo played, just because it gets him closer to goal. It makes him more threatening rather than getting the ball 40 yards out and having to go up there. That said, Martinelli should have done better. And it's not me saying, Martinelli's great and defending him. He should have done better. He had a bad game. But I would like to see him used slightly differently in the way Leo was used.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Leo's cameo was fantastic, wasn't it? It was I don't know if that was a performance born out of frustration and annoyance at the fact he's been left on the bench for 2 games, but he came on. That was a hell of a sort of point to prove type performance, right? So many questions in the comments. Guess what name is cropping up more than any name in the comments at the moment and questions at the moment?
Are we going with Darwin Nunez?
These are just some of them. It's just all Nunez. Yeah. So this is one of the wilder questions, wilder bits of speculation that has suddenly come out that I'm pretty sure is just an absolute wind up. I don't know if you can tell us more.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same. It is a bit of a weird one because Liverpool. Not to us, but Liverpool would be happy for him to go. I think they were hoping Atletico went for him when they went for Alvarez, but obviously that didn't happen. But yeah, I'm 99% sure there's no interest from us. And I think it originally started to wind up Liverpool fans, especially with the trophy comment, and then people jumped on it. What I did find interesting yesterday, and this is obviously going to appeal more to people that are on Twitter a lot, was there was a load of accounts, smaller accounts, popping up saying, I know what we're doing, but I can't tell anyone. And there was about 10 of them that all done it at the same time. And it's like, yeah, of course you do. And then the moment that Nunez thing came out, they all jumped on that and was like, see, we knew what was happening. And it's like, in a way, it did kind of out all of them. But I think that's why it gained the traction it did, because it was just, obviously, Liverpool fans were, if you want to use the word, rattled by it. So they were chiming in on it. Arsenal fans are just desperate for a forward signing at the moment. Then you had all of these smaller accounts trying to take credit for something that was essentially made up at their expense. And I think that's why it gained the traction it did. But yeah, I'm almost certain there's nothing in it. The only caveat I have to have is that I do know that Liverpool would be happy to lose him. I don't know at what price. But yeah, I'm pretty sure to us is not it's not a thing.
Yeah, it's certainly not something that I've heard of. I really like Darwin Nunez, by the way. I think there is a player there that if you could, I don't know, just get, it sounds an easy thing to say, but just get him firing. I mean, everything else he does apart from score goals, is very good. He's chaos, he's strong, he's fast. He terrorizes defenses. If you could just settle him down a little bit in the final third in terms of his finishing, you've got a hell of a player on your hands there. But yeah, I mean, I absolutely am not expecting that to happen when it comes to Arsenal, and it's not one that I've heard of. It was just your classic Twitter rumor, which I think was started as a wind up for Liverpool fans more than anything else. So yeah, I mean, what are we now? We are Wednesday. We're just over 48 hours away, or whatever, 54 hours away till deadline. What are you expecting between now and then? Because Merino we're waiting to hear. Obviously, we've got Nketiah that's going to go out soon, providing no last minute hiccups, which none of us are expecting. You've got Vieira to be confirmed very, very soon as well. The goalkeeper situation is one I think that really needs to be resolved one way or the other. And for Ramsdale, it's a really difficult position for Aaron, isn't it? Because I think we all went into this window expecting he was going to go. I always felt it might end up being a loan at this sort of late stage of the window, but he seems to be running out of options now. All the teams who have been in for Aaron have seemed to sort of move their attention elsewhere and haven't really wanted to agree to Arsenal's terms of, yes, you can have him on loan, but you've got to sign this obligation for around £30 million. And it's kind of left him now facing with 2 days left of the window in a really difficult position in terms of what he's going to do and what Arsenal are going to do as well.
Yeah, it was a weird one. So I got a message yesterday morning from someone close to Aaron, or Aaron's camp, saying Southampton's back on, or he's in talks with Southampton, something along those lines. And it didn't make sense to me, and I kind of ignored it because at that time I knew that they'd had that other keeper had a medical the day before. Mm-hmm. So it's funny, on my Patreon, people were talking about, Southampton's not an option, and I just said, when is that other guy's medical? I can't remember. The guy's name begins with B. I can't pronounce it.
Yeah, he was linked with Arsenal, wasn't he? Final goalkeeper.
Yeah. So I said that, and then about an hour later, it came out that he'd failed the medical. Or again, this is something I hate. You can't fail a medical, but people think you can. But they decided not to proceed after the medical, and then it sort of all made sense. And then I put on Patreon about the Southampton links, and then I've seen a few more people say it since. Whether that's their info or they're running off what I've said, I don't know. But it seems that Southampton is possibly the most likely destination. I know that we either want an obligation if they stay up. If we don't get that, we're looking at a high loan fee with a smaller option. So the price doesn't go up, but it's a kind of incentive to try and make them keep him, essentially. So it's not just or if they don't keep him, we've got a very good loan fee. So, for example, and I'm making up the numbers, say our fee is 25 million, it'd be a 5 million loan fee and then a 20 million option. That's the sort of thing we're looking at if we can't get an obligation. But it wouldn't surprise me if it does end up as a dry loan with a fee probably not that high. I still think, and again, I don't know much about what's going on there, but I still think, and I've been saying this all along, that the Ajax option, because Ajax obviously made an offer dry loan, nothing around it, and I wonder if that option will always be there if it gets right down to the end, and we don't find any other suitors. But I know the Southampton stuff, as I said, 100% he is speaking to Southampton on what terms happens and if it can be agreed. We'll wait to see.
Yeah, I mean, Southampton basically looks like the last option now because of the fact that, is it Beglu or something like that, is that he failed that medical, or medical picked something up. It doesn't really look too many other options apart from Ajax, like you said. It's interesting. James Gunner Blog obviously has reported that Arsenal are interested in Sam Tickle, Wigan goalkeeper, England under-21 international, as that potential sort of third choice. Maybe him or Dan Bentley as a third choice, because that's still an area Arsenal need to sort out, really. It's mad we're this late in the transfer window, and potentially you've got all of this sort of juggling to do in the goalkeeper department at Arsenal. It's not just about Ramsdale stroke Juan Garcia. It's also what you do with the third choice goalkeeper, Bentley or Tickle or whoever it's going to be. There's lots and lots for Edu to do in just a short space of time now.
Yeah. I mean, we obviously spoke last week, and we were saying with Setford being number 3, like sort of what's going on. Because, as you said, even with Ramsdale out and Garcia in, we would still need another one. I'll be honest, someone sent me this morning. They just said, do you know anything about Sam Tickle? And I genuinely thought it was someone messing about with a name. So I can't give you any insight into either the Sam Tickle deal or his abilities. Obviously, Wolves, I think, are signing Sam Johnson today. If Sarr doesn't go, then I presume they'd be more open to losing Bentley. But then if they feel we was unreasonable with our Ramsdale requests, they're going to want to do us too many favours with that. So I think both are options, and it just depends what deal is best. But yeah, we've got to be super busy, as you said. I mean, the Fabio one's weird because Porto have announced it, but we haven't.
Yeah.
It is bizarre. Then obviously Eddie's still got to be signed off. As you said, probably 2 keepers in, 1 keeper out. We all hope for an attacker.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. I mean, I spoke to someone yesterday who said that Arsenal kind of expected to have to be really busy towards the end of the window. I don't think they would have quite expected this, though.
No. If Porto actually announced Vieira, obviously we're watching on the screen, you can see him holding up his shirt, but if they actually announced him, they put those social pictures out, didn't they, saying he's here, it's happening. But have they actually put the confirmation of the transfer being done out yet? I haven't checked. I've just seen the pictures.
I don't think so, but I mean, when that's coming from like an official account with him holding up the shirt with his number, like that's as close to an announcement as I mean, imagine we done that with a player. You just consider them signed, and if it didn't happen, there'd be the meltdown of all meltdowns. So I don't know if they've like officially confirmed this happened, but I mean, in the modern day, what they've done is as good as an announcement.
Yeah, there has been the odd occasion where someone has been there, had photos taken, and it not gone through. There was one at Liverpool fairly recently. I can't remember who it was.
Everton and Tottenham with Danjuma.
Yeah. There was definitely one at Liverpool who was in the building, had his pictures taken, and then it didn't go through for some reason in the last few years. I can't think who it is now. That's going to really bug me. But yeah, it could happen. I mean, we were speaking on the show. You reported it last week that you'd heard that there was still a good chance that Vieira could go out on loan. That's obviously happened now. No buy option included. I'm still surprised they've sanctioned it. I know he didn't play a lot and he was well down the pecking order. But the fact that Emil's gone and Fabio's gone, and obviously Merino's come in, but I don't look at Merino as a sort of replacement for either of those two, even though they technically plays in the same position that Emil has been playing in under Arteta recently. I'm still really surprised that they've allowed Fabio to go. I think it's a good move. I definitely think it's a good move for him to go and get some proper minutes there and rebuild his career, which has definitely stagnated a little bit. But it's just another attacking option that has just been taken out of the squad. So I was a little surprised about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was very surprised when I was first told about it. But to be honest, I was told that if we can get our targets in, that we'll let him go. And I was like, that makes sense, because otherwise his value is only going to tank, and he's probably not going to force his way in because he's probably not even second choice in any position. But then, I mean, surely that Moreno, obviously since then Moreno's come in, that can't, I assume that can't have been what they meant. Like, if our targets come in, we'll let Fabio go, because there's no real correlation. I mean, as you said, Moreno's different in style to Smith Rowe and Vieira, but you'd hope and imagine he can easily cover their minutes and then some that they got last season. So if you see it as a replacement in that sense, maybe. But again, does it leave us like if he sees Ethan as second choice to Martin and doesn't see Fabio as a left A option, which is strange because that's where he started last season. Second choice right winger was never ever going to be. I mean, I don't know why he was playing there in pre-season. He just can't do it. So I think it was just a long way from getting minutes. But I am surprised in terms of squad numbers, not numbers, but experience that he's done it. Because as I said, if you assume Ethan is second choice to Martin, hopefully Martin doesn't get injured. And honestly, his injury record's very good. But I know we all love Ethan, but you can't if we're genuinely trying to win a league, Champions League, and he has to play 10 games in a row. That's a big ask for a kid. It's a real big ask. Forget ability, just for someone of that age, it's a big ask.
It is, absolutely. I still think it's very, very important that they have left a pathway for him. And I like the fact that seems, he seems to be at the forefront of everyone's attention when it comes to potentially making sure there is space to him to get some minutes this season. But I agree that if he has to have a big chunk of minutes, game after game, week after week for, I don't know, a 6-week period or a 2-month period, that's asking a lot for such an inexperienced and young player. But I do think it's important that that pathway is left. I've always said that going into this summer window, that Nwaneri has to be considered when it comes to whoever you bring in. Making sure that Nwaneri his path isn't completely blocked has been had to be a big consideration for me. So I am happy. It seems like he's absolutely. I mean, lots of people in the comments here. I've Jay Lee's obviously this is very sensationalist almost. Edu needs to be sacked if we don't sign a striker, which is obviously not going to happen, and I don't think is correct anyway, because I think Edu's done a fantastic job. But I do agree Arsenal are at least one short. But are Edu, not so much Mikel, because look, Mikel I know for well would want as many players as he possibly could, and he would want I'm sure he wants more players in than he's got this summer. But would Edu and potentially the Cronkies, are they leaving themselves open to quite a bit of criticism, you think, if they don't get anyone else in and then a couple of injuries happen? It's a bit of a gamble.
Yeah, 100%. And this is from a PR standpoint. As you said, they're just leaving themselves open for, I don't even think it's injuries. The moment we lose a game, we all saw the quotes come out after the Bayern game last year. And we also, when it was like, we need some X factor in big games like this. And that was with a reasonably fully fit squad. Yeah. So
that was definitely the plan going into this window. They definitely wanted to sign some sort of X factor player. So they knew that was something that was needed. So all I can think of, if nothing does happen between now and Friday, is that obviously the players that they really wanted, and Nico Williams obviously is a player we know that they really, really like, and if that was a deal that could have been done, I'm sure they would have done everything they could to have done it this summer. But as the window goes on, it is looking more and more like it's just too difficult a deal to do, and that he probably wants to stay at least for another year in Spain and then make a decision at the end of next season. But it just feels to me like they've decided, well, we can't get the players we want, and we're not just going to go out and sign anyone, which in a way I can kind of think is a good thing. But there's also that thing in the back of my mind thinking that there must have been someone else out there. Eze, for example, at Palace, is there potentially to be got. And would he have been that bad an option for Arsenal? I don't think so. I think in my personal opinion, he would have been a good option for Arsenal. So there are players there, I think, that they could have potentially pushed the boat out and gone for, even though it feels like Williams was obviously first choice.
Yeah, I mean, I actually had this conversation yesterday on Patreon, and a lot of people disagree with me, but my thoughts on it are, if you can't get your first choices, as you said, your X Factor players, then I still think we should sign someone, but I'd rather it be sort of a 1-year loan than allocate funds and then have a place in the squad where next year you want to go and get that X Factor player, but you've spent, because it's never going to be chump change. We're never going to spend 5 million on someone. So it's like people going, just get a Dingra. And for me, and there's nothing against the Dingra, he's going to cost 35 plus, probably 50 plus. His wages wouldn't be too high, but say they're 100k a week, which is pretty standard now. That means next year, if you do want to sign a Nico, if he's available, Kvara, Shalia, Liao, and I'm not saying these are people to target, I'm just throwing out names of who people consider X Factor wingers.
Yeah,
it makes it a lot harder because you've got as you said, you've thrown 50 million out the door on someone who's going to be a backup across the things. You've allocated 100k a week to them. It's probably going to be hard to shift them, where you're going to lose money on them. And there's also no guarantee that that player does the job you need them to. So for me, I would rather, and as I said, I know loads of people disagree with me, I would rather sort of a 1 year option, someone who's been there and done it, and people will crucify me for this. I would prefer a Sterling or a Coman for 1 year on a dry loan over as I said, a Dingra. I feel bad on a Dingra because he's a name I keep to pick up, but he's the one that keeps coming up. But over a sort of 30+ million pound player that you don't really want, but it's just like to get someone in. I would rather a 1 year loan, if I'm honest.
Yeah. It's just a case of whether that loan is there. Coman looks like he's off to Saudi Arabia. I saw just
his agent is offering him to everyone relentlessly, and I think it's telling. They keep coming out that he's agreed with whatever the Saudi team is, but they're still looking at other top teams. They don't want to go there. They will go there.
Yeah, similar to Tony, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, Tony's a bit of a weird one because he wants the money. They're offering 400k a week, but then they're not offering Brentford the transfer fee because they've got Tony on board. But yeah, with Coman, as I said, his agent is working overtime. I know, like even a few weeks ago, they kept going to Barca and saying, well, if you don't get Nico, you can have me. I'll come to Barca for a year. Obviously, who wouldn't? And then, as I said, even then, they've been working overtime. It was funny. There was 2 reports that went out at the exact same time today, give or take a minute or so. Fabrizio saying it's not done, and then someone else, I can't remember who it was, saying it's all agreed. And it's like there's just briefings going on all over the place with Coman. Yeah. But then the other one, as I said, is Sterling. If the Sancho thing doesn't take off, it looks like Juventus are going to try quite hard for Sancho. I'm pretty sure United are only interested in Sterling as a swap. And if there's something to be done there, I actually don't think it is something we'll do, but these are the type of players that you could possibly get on a year loan.
Yeah, there are quite a few people in the comments talking about a potential move for Sterling. There was a picture doing the rounds of him at Hale End the other day, wasn't there, with a young Arsenal player that people saw and immediately thought, well, that means he's on his way, which I don't think is the case. So that was it. Everyone's in the comments now. Fekir, it was Liverpool, wasn't it? Nabil Fekir.
Oh,
yeah.
He failed a medical.
Yeah, thank you everyone for reminding me on that. I appreciate it. As always. So yeah, I mean Sterling's an interesting one. It's going to be that. I mean the whole Sancho Sterling thing just sums up how much of a mess the transfer window is now. It's like they're purely again just a PSR workaround sort of transfer type thing, isn't it? It's like there's no way in the normal world that United would want Sterling now and that Chelsea would want Sancho or need Sancho. It's just a complete workaround. It's just a mess of the transfer system at the moment. I wouldn't love Sterling at Arsenal, but at this late on in the window, just for a season, if it was just a straight loan, with a 4 or 5 million loan fee, whatever it was, I think he would certainly be an option that you could use, and he could be pretty useful for a season. But it's not one that would really excite me. Certainly not on a permanent basis. It would have to be a loan. I agree with you there.
Yeah, I mean, I not quite like him, but again, on them bases, I wouldn't mind the transfer. I'm not going to say I'm going to go out and have a party and get him on the back of my shirt, but yeah, I just don't think it'd be a bad transfer. Worked with Arteta, will know the system, knows the triggers, knows how things, and has been there and done it. Like obviously, he didn't win the Champions League with City, he left the year before, but won the Premier League 4 billion times. Mm-hmm. Like obviously, starting Euros can also play. Has played as a 10, played either wing, false 9. I mean, as I said, I don't think it will happen, but I definitely wouldn't be against it as long as the deal is right. And as I said, that would be a loan.
Yeah. I mean, someone like Johnny here saying money doesn't grow on trees. I don't think it's a case of lack of money at Arsenal that they're not signing anyone right now. I think if the right player was there and was available, like Nico Williams, as we're talking about, they have the money to do it. I just don't think they're willing right now to just spend money, as we've been talking about, on a player that they don't really want, that in a year's time you could suddenly kind of feel you're stuck with a little bit. So I don't think it's the case as Johnny says, about money doesn't grow on trees. I think the money is there to do stuff if they actually really wanted to do it. And again, sort of David says quality over quantity. I think that's very much it. They've worked very hard to build this squad and get the squad kind of in the shape that they want it to be. They don't want to end up bringing in players that they don't really want, who they end up being stuck with on big money.
Yeah. It's just, as I said, and it's weird because I would get the money doesn't grow on trees thing if I was saying, why don't we just go out and get Leao or why not? But I feel like we're doing the opposite and saying kind of don't spend money that you don't need to.
Yeah, there's still a lot of talk about like Fulham and Reece, but I just cannot. Like Ozzy here says, is Reece covered for Saka? I cannot, wouldn't be able to get my head around them sanctioning anything for Reece unless, of course, they went out and signed someone in the next couple of days. There's no way with the squad the way it is right now that you could afford to let Reece go and not bring anyone in.
It's a weird one because he clearly doesn't trust him to play relevant minutes. But then, as you said, just in numbers, you feel like you have to keep him.
Well,
With Fulham,
we used him at the weekend. He came on against Villa, didn't he? And so I just can't. I wouldn't be able to get my head around the fact that they would let him go now if they're not signing anyone else.
Yeah, with the Fulham link, there's a Fulham account, and I don't know if they're reliable because I have no knowledge of Fulham Twitter. But he's been messaging me for about 2 weeks saying we're going after Nelson, we're going after Nelson, going after Nelson. He actually linked the Team Talk thing. I think it was this morning. Team Talk linked Reece with Fulham, but I've not heard anything on it. As I said, I think we would be happy to let him go, but just the numbers don't add up or don't make sense.
Yeah, lots of people agreeing on Coman that he would be a good loan move. People are talking about Mudryk on a late move for Mudryk. Yeah, Osimhen's. It's like, are you expecting that to happen to Chelsea? I feel like it's going to happen that right at the end of the window. Osimhen to Chelsea.
Yeah, I mean, well, they'll get either him or Tony, I'd imagine. You'd imagine it'll be Osimhen, but it's just, again, his is like briefing wars, and I just find them so hard to keep up with because 1 minute they're going PSG, now PSG aren't interested, then Saudi are interested, but he doesn't want to go there, then Chelsea, but then Chelsea are interested in Tony. It's just like, I actually find it so hard to keep up with things when there's just like from good people, but they're getting obviously fed by someone, be it clubs and agents. It's just you never know what's going on. But I can't see Osimhen being at Napoli at the end of the window. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. People talking about the Odegaard. If Odegaard did get injured, Austin says, "What happens when Odegaard gets injured?" Well, hopefully he doesn't get injured, Austin. So, and like you said, that his injury record is very, very good. It'd be interesting if he does get injured. Would Ethan be that first choice cover, or do they work? Would it just be someone else filling in, a more senior player filling in kind of out of position a little bit to cover for Odegaard right now?
Well, I was thinking about this the other day, and it's like, does Rice become a right 8 and Partey drop back in at 6 with Merino left 8 possibly? Yeah. I mean, the issue you've got is, and look, I'm the biggest Declan Rice fan you'll get, but that kills all creativity. Like, look, there's different ways to skin a cat, right? So that doesn't mean we could change the way we play and be more physical, more robust, and more powerful. But creativity would be severely lacking.
Yeah, it would. But again, that's just putting an awful lot of pressure on Ethan's shoulders if he's supposed to come in and be the creative spark of the team when he's barely. Has he even played in the Premier League yet? Of course he did. Of course he came on against Brentford and West Ham. Yeah,
and West Ham. Yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't played at the Emirates yet, has he? In the Premier League.
Played
the two away games in the thing. James here talking about Rafinha. I tell you what, I'd be well on board with Rafinha. I really like Rafinha. I was very, very excited when Arsenal were going for him in the summer that he ended up going to Barcelona. And a late move for someone like Rafinha, I think I'd be well on board with that. He can play on the right, can play on the left, knows the Premier League. Exciting player. That's the sort of late signing I could absolutely get on board with.
As far as I know, he doesn't really want to leave, and obviously he's still getting minutes there, so it's not like he's being forced out.
No, he's not.
Also, one of the sort of reasons they were not looking to lose him but happy to lose him would be so they could register Olmo. I know different positions, but just in squad space. But then someone got injured. I think it was Christensen. So they've managed to, well, if the report's true, that they've managed to register Olmo anyway. So I don't think they'd be as keen to lose it. Well, I don't think they'd let him go for a basement fee now that the reason for letting him go is no longer there.
Yeah, quite a few people in the comments here talking about Havertz as a potential shout for the right 8. 6 million says throw Trossard in as at 10. Chris and other people actually have been on talking about Chiesa. Decent fee, I think. I mean, it's a risk because of his injuries, no doubt about it. And I imagine that's why it's got to this late in the window for someone to sort of take a punt on Chiesa because of that knee injury he suffered a couple of years ago. But if you could get Chiesa back to the sort of levels that he showed, obviously, at the Euros in 2021, he was absolutely superb in that tournament. I loved watching him. It's going to be interesting to see what he does at Liverpool, and could end up being a bit of a bargain. That.
Yeah, it could be, but you never know. I mean, someone said it, and it's actually in a group chat that Chris is in. When you look at highlight reels of Chiesa being good, they've got Aaron Ramsey and Cristiano Ronaldo in the Juventus shirt. So that's probably a bit of a red flag. But if you can get him back to that player, then he's worth much more than that. I think the rumour is he's signing a 4-year deal, and I think the wages will be a big indicator because, the transfer fee's low, but if he expects sort of decent wages and you're not sure about his injury record, I could see why teams would be put off. Having said that, I don't know what the wages are. So,
yeah, quite a few people seem to be on board of the Chiesa stuff, but obviously he's heading to Liverpool. That's not one that Arsenal is going to be doing. Right, I think that's about it for now. Thank you, everyone, as always, for joining us. We are going to be recording a part 2 of this show over on Team News and Tix's Patreon, which will be up in a short amount of time. So be sure to head over there fairly soon and check that out if you want to. I'll be back a little bit later. Myself and James Ben just sitting down to record Inside Arsenal Extra Time. So if you want to get involved in that show, you know what to do. Get down into the comments, start it with Extra Time. Give me your opinion, your comment, your question, anything you want to discuss, and we'll pull some of them together and get them included in the show. Until then, thanks for joining me, mate. I'll speak to you very, very soon for part 2 of the show, of course, but we'll be back again to do this on this channel very, very soon as well. Thanks for joining me, mate.
cheers. Thanks for having me.
See you in a bit. Bye-bye.